the Nautilus. In hindsight, it's not the best blind pick, but Upland's success very much rely on having Twist on an engaged champion. So in conjunction, Solari is picking the Aphelios and the Braum to just neutralize the aggression that the Nautilus provide, and then having Aphelios as a stable backline AD carry. We have seen his resurgence, specifically in the LCK and LPL, not so much in LEC just yet. And thus, the response from Upland just seems to be the classic Jinx into Aphelios. We're back into spring.
Jinx and Aphelios are back into spring. Yeah, I don't know. I really massively don't enjoy seeing these champions that much, to be honest with you. Cool Borg.
Which one? Which one of them?
Jinx and Aphelios. I feel like we've moved past that. It's kind of, Jinx and Aphelios to me, they were like, it's like the kind of the pastimes you enjoy as a young adult, and then you grow up, you hit your 20, you hit 25, you're in that like kind of mini midlife crisis, and then you're like, yeah, I don't really enjoy them too much anymore.
I still like Aphelios. There's just something about that champion that
it's just because you don't know what it does. That's
no, it's because I know what it does that I like seeing it. Whereas Jinx to me is so binary. That's why I get tired of it. It was great once it was a pocket pick and was one of these niche things you saw every now and then. I was like, oh my god, Def's Jinx, it's gonna pop off. But then it started to become too mainstream, and when something becomes mainstream, it becomes uncool, and we do not like it.
Okay, you've taken the metaphor I was going for in a good direction there. I commend you. I think the Zoe and the Azir getting taken off the table, two staple picks for Scarlet that he's picked multiple times over the split. I feel like these are champions that really operate as kind of the bread and butter for a lot of the Solari compositions that they build together. And I think getting rid of them, a good move from Upland. They're obviously going to take the 4 pick here. I believe it should be the jungle that they're going to be taking here.
You say that, but I feel like they could also just slam Karma. They have a Jinx to play for. Karma's still up and available, but no. It is going to be the Volibear.
It's going to be the nerfed Volibear as well.
Nerfed Volibear, as you point out there a little bit. So a lot of that early game damage has been taken away for him, which kind of means that when he gets to the late game, he haven't really... So the idea with Volibear was always that, you're going to be a little terrible in the late game, but you get the team ahead in the early game, and now they carry you in the late game. You'll struggle with that a little bit yourself now with the amount of damage that kind of gone away. And if you do not get any leads in the early game, it is just going to feel bad in the late game. Response from Joko will actually be the Vi. Now, that's a little scary right now because there's not a lot of follow-up. It's very much a kite back composition you see on Solari. You get the gangplank, you kite back with Aphelios, you have to peel back from Braum. And Vi has a different stylistic where she wants to go ahead, but the follow-up is not always there. So I feel like you need something to go ahead from the side of Solari to really follow up on it. And no, very scattered team composition. Of course, you got the package that will have to threaten Bung on the Jinx, but outside of that, you got a little bit of both.
I feel like this relates to sort of almost the danger that Solari's composition was kind of building in the sense of the Jinx. They don't really have that many tools beyond the Gangplank. Obviously, Gangplank good into AD carries that don't necessarily have that kind of mobility spells, can kind of lock them up with the ultimate. I feel like they wanted a little bit extra to get onto this Jinx and prevent it from being able to take over some of these team fights. I don't think necessarily, I don't know whether you agree with me or not, I don't think the Vi without necessarily secondary follow-up was the answer here, though.
I think it's a pick you take into Jinx specifically to just try and shut it down. But I think the follow-up is lacking. Maybe in the late game, if they get to that point, Gangplank Barrel together with the ultimate will just one-shot it. But if Ping plays this Ryze out well, I actually do like it. We haven't seen Ryze too much. We did see it in the LCK today against SKT, or T1 rather. And the idea is very much the same as it was in the past. Shove in mid, roam to a side lane. And I guess against Corki, you have really good shove. Specifically when you finally get like 3 points in EQ and more points, you finally get that ultimate as well. It's going to be no problem shoving in the Corki. And you want to use those breaks, or those windows rather, quite a lot. Specifically when you have the Volibear as well. Remember, we talked a lot about the early game. Having a skirmish between Ryze and Volibear can be really strong in the opponent's jungle.
Yeah, I think Wei as well for RNG has played quite a lot of Vi as well, I remember. I think he's got like a pretty good win rate on it. But it's a champion that we're seeing more and more of again. There's a lot of champions that are kind of popping up from the grave. We saw it in LEC as well a few times. But we're going to be getting started up with the game now, and we'll be seeing you rather shortly for our first game of the day. See you soon. Hello and welcome to the misty moors of Runeterra, the Rift League of Legends that we're on today for Game 1. Solari versus Oplon, a relegation clash to secure Oplon's venture out of relegations, or potentially Solari's dipping into the toes, the mudded pond of that relegation zone. Gulborg, what are we thinking?
Well, we're currently thinking that it is an exciting game for Oplon. Of everything to win and everything to lose at the same time.
It's one of those things, right? You've got to imagine as an athlete, when you're kind of staring down a position like this, it's like, how do you react in a scenario like this when there's everything to gain, everything to lose? Is it kind of that bravado that comes out, or is it a little bit of a tepid kind of hesitance, you know? And you can't really show any of that in a game like this.
I gotta say, having to talk with a few pro players and also working with a few back in the day, it's really different how players kind of face this situation themselves. A lot of them will start to get nervous and feel a little worse going into the game. But a lot of players also really gets hyped when the stakes finally start getting high as well. It's the same kind of logic.
It's very much a personality-driven thing, isn't it?
It is definitely a personality. Like, some people think it's way more hype playing the high-stakes game, and they are just, like, so ready for the game. I think Cap's one of those players in the LEC, but of course, something that we don't really know between these players, but we'll have to keep track on in terms of their performance, I suppose.
It's speculation, and I don't think you can discern too much information in that regard from kind of, Playstyle or anything like that, but it's always something to kind of find interesting kind of as it brews in the background. But as this early game starts to brew, it's going to be both junglers starting on opposite sides. The Vi going to be pathing up towards this top lane, try and get an advantage for his Gangplank, potentially, and the Volibear, in contrast, going towards the bot side.
So interesting with the startup at the beginning, you can actually see that Solari has kept track on where the Volibear is going to start. Schönfire, his Raptors is currently being watered. If he's clever enough and just skip them and take a pathing around them, then Solari would actually think that he's pathing up towards the top side, and the Solari bot lane would probably play different. But as you can see on the minimap right now, he will be spotted on the Raptors, and they'll have the information that he's pathing pot, which will in turn let you just remain vigilant on the top side.
And you've got to be hyper vigilant when it comes to this Volibear. I feel like once you're at that level 3 mark, it's really when you've got to try and get a lot of activity on the map. I remember when we were last casting together, Gulborg, there's almost a kind of a breakdown I had mentally, sort of at how many Volibears there were that just weren't getting enough done in the early game. And you talk about this champion being such a heavy B1 priority, especially in the LFL, weeks gone by. Just too many times it was kind of getting into these games and not getting a position that was beneficial for the team out of it. And I feel like warding for these ganks, avoiding some of the early potency, so important for Team Solari.
One other thing is just, keeping the objective stacking going in the early game. So many times we'll see teams still have priority for Drake or potential first Herald, but they won't actually pull the trigger, and they'll miss out on the window. And like, you can go even into the mid-late game then. We're going even into late game against a Corki and a Gangplank, with the kind of low range composition you currently have outside of the Jinx, is not necessarily what you're looking for, right? So we want to see Oplon stay vigilant. We want to see them look for the players in the early game.
Absolutely. You've got to remain completely aware of everything that's going on. See Schönfire in the bot side. You have to imagine that Solari's bot lane at least know he's in the vicinity.
Oh yes.
They're on a bit of a difficult wave state in the sense of quite imagine they'd like to crash this. You can see Twist in the bush, looking for an aggressive position. Will Schönfire cancel its base one more time? No, he's going to be heading back to base, and that should give... It's weird, right? You see Solari there. It's almost as if they know that the Volibear has disappeared from the area. They immediately start walking up.
I think
it's that sixth sense, right, in League sometimes that you have.
It definitely is. I think you can see a little bit of the way Twist was posturing. He was on the second bush in the lane as well, and then all of a sudden he went all the way back as soon as Schönfire stopped, which kind of just insinuated that the jungler would be gone if he was over there. I think Steelback's posturing in lane was also really good. If ever Twist wanted to look for a lane, it's only Steelback he could hit, and having the shield and having the ability to jump out afterwards will probably just have to persuade the gang immediately.
100%. I think so much of bot lane is just down to kind of picking up the kind of almost body language. It's strange to say that in a game like League, right? But it is very much just like how you click backwards, how you posture, like you were saying, Gulborg. So much of it is just picking up that kind of those small little signs and discerning so much like additional information from it. So we look at
I remember back in the ERL days as well, when I was coaching, we had a mid laner who often got comments from the opponent saying that he's playing like he's got the jungler behind him all the time because he's playing so aggressive. And that kind of lets that makes the opponent think the jungler's there, and they don't punish any, like a mid laner or an AD carry just playing so far forward or support, because the body language is like, you have to think someone's there. So there's mentality that you can play around, but sometimes that mentality itself can also be dangerous to you if the enemy's bluffing.
100%. And I love talking about stuff like this because we really start to get into kind of like the dynamics of League as like akin to something like poker or akin to something like chess.
100%.
That's really what interests me.
Let's keep tracking of the early game as we talked about. We said it. Drake stacking on spawn. It has to come out from Churnfire, and Lord behold, it happened, Jake.
And lo and behold, we had high expectations of their ability to take those dragons in the early game, and they've definitely succeeded on that front. First dragon of the game goes their way, the Cloud Dragon, going to be giving them a little bit of that slow resistance. That's not massively helpful for too many of the enemy champions.
I feel like now that you're on your way towards that level 6, right? You should just be looking bot or mid lane. You have a Cannon Barrage. You have a Vi that can look a target down as soon as she hits that level 6 herself, of course. And even though Bong has cleansed himself, I feel like if the Vi gets locked onto, you should just dive the follow-up with Steelback still coming along, trying to apply that extra slow and stun.
Yeah, I really feel like the case right now, Gorborg, like you're very much setting up there, is that Solari should be looking for a play in the next minute or so, and it's very much just a case of how do OPL know where it is, do OPL know where it's coming, and can they create resistance and create response to it? Because if they don't, then it could be Solari getting a small advantage in the oncoming minutes.
You're completely right with that, and you can even see it on the vision control right now that OPL has decided to put out. Like, look at the bot side
really
vision, right? River really lit up, and you can see it on the entrance towards the tri-bush. It's watered around. The only thing they don't have covered is Jogo takes an entrance from Crocs into tri-bush. You will not be spotted, but any wall outside of that, then you will be spotted. And speaking of spotted, you're in the top side.
Yeah, and I feel like this is really important in terms of what we're saying. Now, although that vision is available, you can imagine off the reset now with 2 pink wards in inventory, Steelback will be able to clear out a little bit of that. And we've got information as to where Churnfire is. You know, he's not going to step back on towards those Krogs. You see him on the pink ward, so you know he's on the Raptors right now. You imagine whereabouts he's going to be in the next minute or so. And I feel like this allows Solari to have a little bit of time to play with. Unfortunately, it hasn't been the case that Steelback's been able to clear out any of the vision that would allow Joko's entry into the bot side unspotted. And now Churnfire's going to be here just to respond to anything that could potentially be gained or garnered here. Joko going to be queuing out of there.
Still not looking for it despite the Cannon Barrage. Churnfire though, getting aggressive, but Steelback is making a move.
Churnfire rather aggressive. Steelback's going to have the benefit of being the first to move here, which is going to mean a little bit more of that vision control gets gained for the side of Solari. It's the case of what they do with it now. With that Rift Herald being spawned up now, you can see Steelback doing the classic of leashing a little bit of XP from mid. If we have a look at his XP bar, he's probably rather close to that level 6 mark, but Churnfire waiting for the rotation back now.
So you have to give up this way. You can't stick around.
Oh, Solari going to be able to get here in time is the question. Twist now going to be going out, just hugging the turret, trying to go away from it. Flash forward, that's the Volibear ultimate coming in now. Cancelling out the turret. E is coming in, that's the ultimate from Vi. As it's still alive. And we spoke about it, Gulborg. Would they be able to get there on time? And they are always on time. They're always there when you're ready to call them, your teammates. And Az is going to be the one to survive from that tower dive.
Oh my god, Twist was so close to level 6 as well. It felt like the flash came out way too early. You could have looked for the hook in the beginning, then force out the flash and follow up with a flash yourself. That was not the case, and they got so split up on the tower. Even Bong used his ultimate way too early. So that extra damage, or even the ability to hit it, didn't come out.
And absolutely, I mean, Gulborg, we talk about fundamentals, we talk about the jar rules of the game, and you can always count on your team being always on time. And it's the case of it, you know? Vi has the flash available, has the ultimate available there. And like you're saying, if you don't use those cooldowns efficiently, like the Jinx ult, like even the Volibear stun, I feel like was misused slightly, then you give time to return on the dive, and that's really what happened there. And it means that, ironically, Gulborg, in contrast to what we were saying up there, we spoke about how it was Solari's play to make and Oplon would need to respond. It's Oplon who are the aggressors and Solari who end up responding to the play.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it shouldn't work for Solari, but it works out, you know? Yeah. I still think the bot lane and mid lane priority is in favor for Oplon. There's 1 minute around for the Drakes, so, you know, final resets should come through now. A little greedy of Bong trying to stick around for the play, but I don't think he's going to get it. That's just loss of tempo. That's AD carry greed right there. Oh, is it? Or is it?
Ooh.
Hey, it's perfectly calculated. I take it all back.
You've been made to absolutely chew your words there. I hope you like the taste of them.
Oh, they taste quite nice.
But in any case, with that Rift Herald still up for grabs, see a lot of teams rotating towards that at the 8-minute mark. It's been the staple of this season. It's a staple of seasons gone past, but not the case this game. 10 minutes now with no sort of efforts being divulged towards it. And I'm the one who's made to chew my words, because that has immediately become the case. That you see mid lane prio gained, and the support for SLY, Steelback, has wormed his way into the top side. And it's going to be the Rift Herald, you'd imagine, going the way of SLY, but a Dragon has been found for Oplon now. They're going to be responding to that, building up their win condition of their own.
Yeah, but I definitely feel like Oplon had a window to get this Rift Herald earlier with the early game composition they had. Remember, they had bot move, right? So Wiz could have been resetting, move up towards Herald, set up a play there, try and win it around, you know, Ping's first move too. Not going to be the case, and now Oplon themselves, that's a round 2.
Round 2, teleport comes in though. This is going to be Scarlet coming into the bot lane, but Azza, not the beneficiary this time of his team being on time. It's going to be a response kill onto Twist though. And he's going to be the one dropping a wave there. Unfortunately, did not have any summoners to help him out of that situation.
1-for-1 is most certainly not what you're looking for either, and the Corki gets one of the kill, one of the carries that wants to scale up. You know, gets funneled a little bit of gold, and now can just move into the mid lane. Will have the priority of Steelback as well. They have Rift Herald on Joko. Joko has the ultimate 2 Peng. Might be a little overextended.
There might be a little bit of danger here. Peng gonna have the flash available. Actually, might just be able to walk out of it with Phase Rush. Q does land, no Peng. Oh. Last Q, God, so much kind of patience being shown there. Was it patience from Peng was the word I was looking for. To not flash there.
He knew exactly he was out of that U range as well. The Winter's Bind on the Braum. I feel like I would have flashed that one.
And I've just realised he doesn't even have Phase Rush. I wonder what the actual speed up came from.
Ghost.
I was so confused.
It was Ghost.
Okay, yeah, my bad then.
He's got the Unsealed Spellbook, which he activated just before the play came down.
Fair enough. And I wanted to talk a little bit because it's a champion. I feel like we didn't really touch too much on draft, but we spoke about kind of the Corki nerfs on 12-13, about how we expected this to be a champion that isn't necessarily dead in the water, but definitely not wearing the same aviator glasses that it was before. Definitely not
Rocket.
Definitely not the Rocket
so
Man.
Much less damage.
Not
Yeah,
the Elton, not the Elton
Man.
John of mid lane anymore.
You are 100% about that. I think it got nerfed with 20 damage, base damage as well from the big wreck rocket, 10 from the normal ones, and then the scaling percentages of AP was nerfed as well. Which is why in some solo queue that I've been able to track on data, a lot of them have gone back to, you know, more mana into Shield Bow, into Essence Reaver. For now, with Scarlet, can still go towards that AP route. I have seen it with Humanoid in the LEC, although it wasn't a pretty sight. It was still built.
Absolutely. Let's talk about 13-minute mark. Only about 50 seconds or so for Joko to get the most amount of usage out from this Rift Herald to get those plates. You'd imagine with so much attention being put towards that Rift Herald earlier. Oh, and then losing the Dragon. Twist is going to get engaged on here. Gangplank ultimate comes out as well. Bung. Joko has the ultimate available. They're going to be getting Twist almost immediately, but ultimate onto Bung, but it's going to be flashed on the turret. He has to flash away now. Response from Shermfire means that no kill was found for Solari, and Oplon here to respond. Peng. It's going to Zonya's the stun here from the Aphelios gun. A little bit more damage. It's going to do enough at Red 1. It's not going to be the burning in damnation that was required for Solari, and they're not able to find Twist or Bung, and it's a kill for Oplon, responding to the play beautifully.
Yeah, just Solari getting greedy with their summoners or their ultimates here. They thought they could get the kill on Twist immediately and then turn on towards Bung, but wasn't able to get the kill, and thus they were just split up. Bung flashes on the tower, and Joko forced to follow him. And the play starts up with Bung being recalling on a ward here. Sets up the play. Remember, Twist earlier did not have that flash. Might just be coming up in a bit. And this is the position where they think Twist is dead immediately, but he's not. Because of that, they just don't get to solidify the play. To be fair, if they're timing summoner spells, the flash was down from Twist when they started the play, but it came up 2 seconds later.
Yeah, completely, and I feel like Peng's so lucky to survive at the end here, but time and time again we're seeing either the plays being responded to well by Oplon or just coming out on top of it. They're going to get the Rift Herald down, but it is after that timer that we spoke about being set up. No plate's going to be able to be garnered for them. They are going to get the first turret there, which is a little bit of a boon in terms of a boom, economically at least. Going to be zooming them up to a 1.6k gold lead at the moment, but Oplon doing well to respond to some of the aggression that Solari has shown at multiple points in this game.
And this is going to be a big breaking point as well for Oplon. I think the next Drake is so pivotal for them. They need to continue with the Drake stacking, because if they get stopped in their track here, Solari, they buy themselves 5 extra minutes. And that's quite a few minutes when you're banking on a late game composition with a Gangplank and a Corki. And now Scarlet has revealed his game plan. You can see it now. Lost Chapter has been completed, going towards that either Luden's Echo or Leandri's Anguish.
And it's echoes of a previous Corki, I feel like, almost. You spoke about Humanoid picking that in the LEC and how it wasn't a pretty sight. I feel like, well, not to sound like Kha'Zix, but change is necessary, you know? You've got to adapt, you've got to overcome. I feel like switching into that build that you were talking about would be a little bit more beneficial. I feel like he's more concerned about the lack of AP kind of damage portfolio for his team composition.
Well, he doesn't have to be, because Corki's damage, even if he buys AD, is still transferred to AP. So either way, still an AP champ. But now, Oplon has started up that Drake, and you can see it now.
They've done it rather quickly here. It's going to be them taking it almost immediately. It's a really good move from them. And Scarlet left with a little bit of an egg sandwich on his face, in the sense that he's backed here with the package and hasn't really been able to find her. And you feel as if Solari just sort of let the dragon go, and they're sort of standing around like, do we go, guys? Do we go?
And you know, that has massive implications for the next Drake as well. If you're not familiar
100%.
with the changes Corki had, of course he had the changes to the package that instead of 4 minutes, it's now on a 5-minute cooldown, which means that this package will be off after the spawn of the Drake. So the preparation, if Oplon is there, actually buys themselves some time for the next one.
Yeah, obviously one of the benefits of getting Oplon to move away here is that you do get a bit of that mid lane priority. You're going to be able to get some of that top side vision as well. CQO has managed to push in around 3 waves or so. Dalek is going to be able to respond to that. But yeah, we spoke about how important it was to continue that Drake stacking. And obviously, one of the main concerns for me in going into this fight is obviously the 1.5k gold lead. It's not much, but if you talk about who that gold lead's on, in terms of these incremental item advantages, whether or not that would translate into a beneficial fight, because if Oplon do contest that and they lose a fight, then you'd imagine they're going to lose the next dragon as well in terms of the tempo shift. They're not able to get towards that late game as quickly. But now, they're in about as good as a position as they could have been from previous minutes, now able to get that penultimate soul point, or soul point in general, and in 3 minutes or so, like you're saying, without that package being able to be available for Scarlet and Solari, it's going to be really difficult for them to contest that area, I feel like.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Now, Rift Herald getting started up here. Still second one going over to Solari, so no Rift Herald prioritization by Oplon at all. In fairness to them earlier, they did have that Gangplank shoving in the top side. Would make it a bit difficult. This time around, though, they're just not looking to play for it. Now Twist, though. X-Flash. Not over the wall.
Oh, Schönfire getting engaged onto. We can just immediately stun it. Twist is going to be using the Q on him, though. Paying off to the side now onto Scarlet. A lot of movement speed. Teleport coming in from Dalek. Has Mega Gnar and Flash available. Look at him right now. Schönfire. Dalek has Flash. It's into the wall. Steal back's the one he finds. Still back in stasis though. Q well timed by Twist there. So Dredge Line is going to pick a opponent there. It's a 2-4-1 there. Off a bit of an overstep from Jocko. Almost immediately there. He gets picked off.
And there's just no return play. Yeah, you get to shove in the bot side. There's a little bit of damage as well. Peng though, I fancy himself a duo with Keo without him knowing it.
Ooh, Peng has the barrier available. Ultimate is going to mean that Peng has to flash away here. And one more Q. It's a lovely barrel. He saw how much damage that did. He just wasn't expecting it. I don't think he even used the barrier to kind of mitigate the damage that was done by the barrel. I think he might have survived if he did, but it's a good move from Kyo to sit himself in that bush there, just in the anticipation of the wave being responded to.
I think just disrespecting the fact that Kyo has not left either. So Oplon, they are getting leads in a few fights, but also losing a bit on the side lanes. And I think Kyo on the Gangplank, he's going to be pivotal in the comeback of Solari in this game. Yes, they're ahead in gold right now, of course, but they lose this fourth Drake with the Infernal Soul. Will be a bit painful playing into the Oplon composition.
Yeah, completely agree with you there, Coolborg. And I feel like it's an important kind of story arc for Kyo. A player that, obviously, on his second split now, kind of looked underwhelming in quite a few laning phases, I think it's fair to say. He's also... I think it would be remiss of me to categorize, you know, having Ornn as your most played as like a story of someone that like goes as the unsung hero of the team, because I feel like we've seen multiple Ornn performances from Shigenda, for example, whereby the Ornn can kind of strangely turn into the carry. But I think seeing him on the gangplank, because we might be seeing a fight unfold here, seeing him on the gangplank and being able to put on a performance so far is in sharp contrast to seeing him continuously on the Ornn week in, week out. And I feel like if he can go on a good showing here in such an important match, it's a really big showing for him.
Early Rift Tile as well. There's still going to be a while before the Drake spawns 50 seconds, approximately 2 waves you want to have shot before you start moving into that river yourself. But with this, they will open up the mid lane. They can push Opland further back onto the Rift, and then in turn, himself more priority. Joko looking, but I don't think you're looking for a fight here.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like after that previous fight, you saw obviously Opland had to back off a little bit, and a lot of damage was dished out towards that mid lane turret. To which point, whereby the resets meant that this Rift Herald in the mid lane, really just a formality at this point, just to garner more control, kind of squeeze that sphere of influence that you have over that mid section of the map. You're going to see Peng. He's a little bit late to this fight. Does have teleport. He's not going to go for the base even. Just going to teleport straight to the mid lane, and they're playing for the mid lane priority now. Look at Dalek and that Mega Gnar bar. He's stacked up almost immediately. It's going to mean his engage comes out onto steal back. E from Jinx. A little bit further back now. Cannon Barrage coming out now. But here's Scarlet, who gets the kill onto Swist almost immediately. Joko's in the back line, but he's escaped now. Schönfire's going to be walking straight into him. Ultimate's into the Raptor Pit. Joko over the wall now. We're going to counter engage. He gets slung into the wall though by Dalek. Dalek does not get hit by the Brawn Cube. He's going to have to walk away now. And with that Infernal Dragon up, Opland have been stifled in their tracks. The train has gone off track. It's gone off script. They will not be able to break even at the 21st minute, and it might not even be the Dragon that Solari opt for. They might even fancy to go towards the Baron if they can. Peng versus Scarlet, and that was the Scarlet letter. Opland Peng descends into a red pool on the Rift as he goes to a grey screen, and that's going to be the 4th Dragon of the game. Not going to be the soul for Opland. Joko and Co pick up their 1st Dragon of the game.
And honestly, that's the kind of team fight Solari they were looking for. If they lose that one, that's pretty much the game. They can kiss goodbye. Not only will they give over the kills for the fight, they'll also lose the soul. Now, with the amount of gold they pick up, they extend their gold lead. They buy themselves 5 extra minutes. They have enabled the mid lane turret pushed in. There's a top lane outer turret. You can still prioritize now with the focus being on the top side anyway because of the Baron being the only neutral objective up. And suddenly for Solari, it's looking good for their scaling champions.
100% Gulborg. I feel like with this Corki being online, obviously the nerfs obviously being somewhat of a, a damaging front to the champion and its kind of identity, but when you get this far ahead, 3-0-2 now, zooming down towards that 3rd item, it doesn't really matter kind of at this point. You're going to be doing so much damage in some of these team fights as some of the squishier targets available for Team Opland. I see Dalek in the bot side now, going to be meeting 2 here. Schönfire's here as well though. Dalek has that Mega Gnar. Can be using any second now. Teleporting, it's 2 into the wall. Immediately Kyo uses that orange. Joko counts the counter engage though. They're not doing enough damage to him though. That's Bung with the reset now. What more can he do? W onto Kyo. Kyo does not have that orange available anymore as previously mentioned. Azza with the stun. One more auto will do it. And it's a double kill apiece for both bot laners. There's a 2 for 2. Tentative affair in the bot side.
Still, you don't get the shutdowns, right? You're picking up the kills on a few targets. That's already feeling pretty good. But if you kill the Corki, that's 550 waiting for you. 300 if you kill Asa as well. Trade even with those ones? Yes, it'll be worth it. But I think the jungler there. Yeah. And Kyo, of course, is nice, but trading even doesn't really mean much at this point in the game.
Completely agree with you there. We see how this play started out here. It's Dalek with Mega Gnar. You see the plays being set up here. It's the R into the wall. Teleport out in response. I feel like Joko continuously, he's able to kind of pervade and exist outside of the engage so often.
It's such a close effort for Kyo to stay alive as well, but Bong finally finding that ultimate. So at least trade even there, but that could have been way worse for Opland.
I wanted to get kind of your take on this. Sort of the Jinx going the Bloodthirster second. In kind of direct contrast to a lot of builds I feel like we see from the Jinx quite often. How do you feel about this kind of itemization?
Wait a bit, right?
This might be another fight in the mid lane. Joko looking for an engage onto Dalek. He's in the Mega Gnar though. A lot of damage being dished out by Bung so far. Steal back. Trying to look for more than engage. So close to being stunned was Dalek, but another tentative affair. Both teams not able to quite find it. You almost feel as if one pick will lead into the Baron now. And any mistake could be so costly at this point, 2 minutes before the next Dragon.
So
back to the
going back to your question, going back to your blockbuster here. Initially, into champions like Gangplank and Corki, it actually provides a lot of value because a lot of these champions don't burst you down; they do a lot of poke damage. So having a blockbuster allows yourself to get back into the fray. Scarlet,
hello Scarlet, Peng trying to get out of there.
Oof,
not enough damage is done. He actually had a lot of return damage there. Has to use the exhaust as well, though. That's one of the summoner spells in his wheelhouse that's been returned back into cancellation. Minute 30 on the Dragon now, and in terms of how the map's set up, do you feel like Oplon are able to kind of get this final piece in their puzzle?
I think they're going to be struggling a lot. The fact is that when you do not have priority of a Drake and you have to walk into your opponent, that already feels bad in its own right. But now you're walking into a Gangplank who will just be awaiting you with opens off with barrels. The same with Scarlet as well with the Rocket. 3 items on the Corki. As Solari, you're feeling pretty good about this one. And now Package, even synced up with the objective, so looking a bit rough for Oplon if they want to contest the next objective.
Yeah, I vehemently agree with you there, Coolborg. I feel like dire straits. 4-team Oplon done such a good job of kind of holding on to that early advantage that they got for themselves from those dragons, but
hold on, wait a minute.
It's going to be Solari actually going towards the Baron now. This is a little bit, I feel like they're throwing away some of their bot side control a little bit. Choco taking quite a bit of damage from the Baron. It's down to 9k. I feel like if they don't fully commit to this, they've wasted a lot of tempo here. And I feel as if in the positions here, if Oplon can find and worm their way down into that bot side, they can get a lot of control. But Bung might be out caught in position here, and questionable positioning from him there. It's Jock over the wall, it goes on to Peng as well. And the Package, I feel like I'm so confused by Oplon here in terms of, I feel like Solari wastes so much time in terms of their tempo going towards this Baron. They do a faux start here, and Oplon just do not respect the fact that Package is still available for Scarlet, and Scarlet, the Packaged bomber, just descends into the backline and takes out Bung. And Bung is sent back to the base, and this is going to mean another Dragon in another 5 minutes. And I feel like Gulborg, we talked about, if they can't hold on to this win condition that they built for themselves, it's game over.
It most certainly is, and it just feels like slowly but surely the game is slipping out of the hands of Oplon. Of course, one mistake in the late game, you still have carries to play for. There is still a Drake up and available later after these 5 minutes. If the mistake is made around when that soul spawns, it can pivot Oplon right back into the game. But that brings you to the next conclusion, which is that it's on Solari to make a mistake, right? As Oplon right now, yes, you can continue looking for these plays in its own right, but with Solari being as far ahead as they are right now with 2 Infernal Drakes themselves, they should be the team kind of dictating the pace, and they should be the team to have to make a mistake if Oplon wants to come back.
And we have to recenter it. We have to really talk about this in terms of, for Oplon, this is do or die time in terms of avoiding that relegation battle. You know, you've got so many there's grains of sand that are really just falling out of your hands at the moment and slowly just slipping through the cracks of your fingers, and they've really got to get a hand and a hold on this game, capitalise on any mistakes that Solari do make for themselves. And they've got to really pull for something here in these closing minutes of this game, because with the Baron in tow, and the Baron and the next Dragon in tandem, they're really kind of on their last legs, you feel as if, in this game. One more fight will mean that the base gets opened up, and from that point onwards, it's kind of as if you create the bouncers of your own base, you create the bouncers of your own kind of structure, whereby I feel as if they're going to be hard pressed to move outside of that base.
You're not landing a crit there, fortunately. Is building towards that Collector himself when he finally finishes that off. It'll look a bit dire, of course. The Gangplank barrels damage itself scales with a crit amplifier, which is why that crit plank has become so annoying. Also why he's getting changes on 12.14. Of course, we are still playing on 12.13. Bung being
this could be a
engaged
very important fight. Bung gets taken out almost immediately. Both summoners are burnt. Peng is going to be taking a little bit of an exit there with the ultimate, but 2 key carries, 2 key players taken out for Oplon there. And it's twice in a row that Bung's been caught out in a rather unfortunate position. Just gets absolutely deleted by Azza and Scarlet. Time and time again, it's the big one plus Azza's ultimate that just immediately just removes Bung from the face of the earth. And it is a scorched earth as Solari going to be imprinting their face on the Baron pit right now. They're going to be taking that major objective for themselves now, surmounting themselves atop a lead of 7,000. And these are some debts that you feel as if Oplon are going to be hard pressed to cash in, Gulborg.
Remember, Oplon They lose this game, no wait for them out of the relegation zone that we talked about. They will finish 9, no matter what, when this season ends. So everything to play for if they want to come back. They're 8k gold behind. They're facing a Baron. They have everything against them. This game is looking incredibly dire, and I'm not talking about Wolves. Fire currently on them, and going to be a tricky situation getting out of this one.
It's most certainly a Shern trial by fire, isn't it? You've really got to be, you're up against the...
Most certainly.
Your steel back is up against the wall, and you've got to really just pull for something here. I feel like when the odds are stacked against you, that's when we talked about on the foot of the game. It's what affects you in a game like this. Where do the nerves go? Who's your big game player? Who steps up in the moment? And I'm looking at a team Oplon that just in the last few fights here just not been able to find that kind of star man to really kind of make up for some of the deficits they found in these games. And it's coming down to the final questions of it. Shernfire's in. Q has wormed out yet, or timed out rather. Final Dragon spawning in a minute or so. They're going to get control of that mid lane now. Solari are going to trade that for a little bit of control in terms of warding in that bot side. They're going to barrel themselves down to that mid lane turret, get a little bit of control here. Might even go for the tier 2 as well, but that barrel going to delete most of the wave. Importantly, Gangplank ult is used here 50 seconds before the Drake. That could have implications, Gullborg.
At the same time, you are definitely dropping your inhibitor for this one. They might even try and stop the base to look for the end themselves. How many recalls can be stopped here? All of them so far, Jake.
Peng and Bung are out. Shernfire's going to be getting away from that with the blast cone, but 2 people have been stopped here. They're onto the Nexus turrets. They're getting absolutely blown apart. They're in the base right now.
Make it.
And at the turn of a hat, this could be Oplon's relegation battle completely actualized in the Nightmarescape. Shernfire over the wall now, buying time with Jocko. But he's going to get taken out by Kyo here. That's a kill. Dalek and co. Trying to find more here, but now with the Dragon in 18 seconds, it's wonderful bit of play from Solari. Just to bend and fold and amalgamate Oplon around the map, just to kind of bend them into malleable forms that they do not want to be in. It's the spine of Oplon are breaking at the seams right now. And they're...
Not much to look for there, and even in the best case scenario, Jake, it's not working out. You can see they tried to base raise it down the middle lane, but Kyo was ready with the cannon barrage, he was ready with the barrels, and once came the stops of the back, well, so fell the base of Oplon as well. We're now looking at a Nexus being completely stripped of its towers and its security. And just one package, one backdoor, one teleport. There's so many things Oplon needs to be worried about. 3 Drakes as well, Infernal playing up against. It's looking pretty over.
And all the ribs have been exposed, or taken away rather. The ribs have been removed, Gullborg. It's an operation, it's a clinical exorcism by Solari, and only the heart remains. The heart of courage is Oplon are 2 steps from hell at the moment, 2 steps from relegation. And they've got to show something that we've not seen from them in this split before. Backs against the wall, what can they show us, Gullborg? As Solari stares down a 9,000 gold lead, 3 Infernal Dragons, a fully scaled Corki, a fully scaled Aphelios. It's going to be so hard for Oplon to do anything. They've got to look for a miracle. They're holding out for a hero, Gullborg.
They definitely are. They're just playing on 1 lane here. They don't even have to play on 2. They got so much poke damage as well. Being aggressive with the package here. But the turret, either way, looks to be falling if they'd like to auto-attack it.
They are going to get it eventually. It's going to be one more entrance point. One more ease of access point for Solari. As the siege of Oplon's base continues. At the moment, it's in its inception, Gullborg. It's not quite ended up being the siege of Carthage quite yet. They've not, they've stormed the walls, and now they begin the long war of attrition to starve the supplies of Oplon, taking away these jungle camps, taking away these natural resources that so depend upon Oplon and their lifeblood in this game.
So what I think that comes out right now is that the last Solari members just wants to get to full item. They're not playing it, too sloppy whatsoever. Teleport looking for Peng though. No teleport himself. He's got the barrier to use.
Peng's going to have to use that ultimate. When is he going to pull it? He's going to pull it. He's pulled it late though. Flash away. And Peng, you needed to do that quicker, buddy. Q's there, and with an open Nexus, you almost feel as if you see the teleport primed in here. This is the final march. As the chariots of fire descend upon the base of Oplon. Shernfire goes in, but he's going to get immediately taken out there by barrels. Barrels galore. And they hearken the deficit, they hearken the dark times for Oplon. As Oplon, chrome black in deceit and sadness, they're going to find themselves at potentially 4-13, locked out of that non-relegation zone. And Solari dip above the waters and they will not drown in the LFL.
Solari, they stay alive, and feels good for them. Wasn't a clean victory whatsoever. It was sloppy in the early game, but unfortunately for Oplon, they could not keep up the pressure despite their best efforts. And I think good Herald usage for Solari to keep themselves ahead in gold, actually, despite them dropping Drake after Drake after Drake, and then finding the kills on Azawit, mistaken dives by Oplon with kills on towards the Corki afterwards. There's only one way we were going, and that was up the Solari